The shadows in the forest. Deep within a dark forest, where trees reached for the sky like menacing claws, lived a woman known only as the Ugly Hag. Her appearance was enough to freeze the blood of any lost traveler. Wrinkled skin, glowing yellow eyes piercing through the twilight, and a hunched figure that seemed to blend into the shadows of her dilapidated house. Her dwelling, overgrown with moss and hidden among thick branches, was a mysterious place that nearby villagers whispered about with fear. The Ugly Hag had a peculiar delight in luring weak-hearted men, those who betrayed their wives or lived toxic lives, into her dark snares. It didn't take much effort, a sweet whisper, a promise of riches, or an enticing gaze, and they would fall prey to her enchantments. The forest became the stage for a macabre play, where every misstep led them closer to her house, dimly lit by a flickering flame that suggested safety. When a man stepped into her home, the atmosphere shifted abruptly. The sweet scents that had drawn him in transformed into a pungent blend of mold and decay. The Ugly Hag would offer drinks and murmur words that clouded their minds, revealing their deepest fears. Then, with a sharp cackle, she would unveil her true nature. Instead of granting what she had promised, she confronted them with their vile deeds. Through a series of curses, she turned them into grotesque creatures or left them to wander the forest forever, haunted by their own mistakes. Legends about the Ugly Hag spread quickly. The men who escaped, though few, were never the same. Their eyes were hollow, and their lips lacked the courage to recount all they had endured. But each of them remembered one thing, a warning the Ugly Hag repeated before releasing them. He who betrays will be betrayed. He who harms will be harmed. The Ugly Hag and the Times of Dracula. The legend of the Ugly Hag traces back to ancient times, when Transylvania was a harsh but enchanting land, filled with mysteries and dangers. Deep in the dense forests surrounding Bran Castle, the Ugly Hag, as she was called, had made her home. She lived during those dark times when Dracula, the feared ruler, defended the land from Turks, Hungarians, and Russians with an iron fist. The Ugly Hag was a controversial figure, though her nickname stemmed from her appearance, a face deeply lined with wrinkles, a long crooked nose, and a twisted mouth. Some said her soul held a shred of nobility. She had a mission: to punish men who were disloyal to their women and to protect the forests and lands of Transylvania from traitors. Her story, though terrifying, was believed to be true by the villagers, who avoided the woods where she cast her curses. One day, a handsome young man, riding a spirited horse, ventured into the dark forests near Bran Castle. The boy was of rare beauty, with hair shining like the sun, and eyes that seemed to mirror the sky. But what truly set him apart was not his looks, but his golden heart. He was kind to all, from people to the smallest creatures of the forest, and he was known for his bravery and loyalty to his homeland. The Ugly Hag, who could always sense the soul of a person before confronting them, was taken aback by the boy's presence. Unlike the men who fell prey to her curses, he was pure. When he approached her home, she did not lure him with her usual spells, but let him pass, admiring his kindness. She knew that such a soul could not be tarnished by infidelity or malice. The young man, with his large sword adorned with dazzling diamonds, was a defender of the land. He feared nothing and was ready to lay down his life for his homeland. Though the Ugly Hag did not harm him, she continued to watch him from the shadows, respecting his courage and dedication. In secret, she vowed never to stand in his way, and, in her own way, to protect him from the dangers of the forest. The diamond sword, and the boy's visions. It was a quiet morning in the village at the edge of the forest, but the calm was abruptly shattered by the sound of galloping horses and the shouts of Turkish warriors approaching. Their group, thirsty for conquest and destruction, had come to terrorize the peaceful inhabitants. In the chaos, villagers fled in all directions, seeking refuge. Yet, amidst the turmoil, the handsome boy, with his golden heart and diamond-encrusted sword, rose as a defender of justice. As the Turks entered the village, the young man drew his sword, and a radiant light burst forth from the blade, seemingly fueled by his courage. With a single, precise strike, he brought them all down, leaving them defeated. The villagers watched in awe, thanking him for saving their lives. However, this moment of glory did not go unnoticed by the ugly hag, who observed him from afar. In the shadows of the forest, the ugly hag realized that the boy was no ordinary human. He was unique, chosen by destiny, and possessed supernatural powers he himself had yet to fully understand. In her heart, the ugly hag felt a mix of admiration and curiosity. She, who had mastered all spells and curses imaginable, now witnessed a force she could not entirely explain. Days passed, and the ugly hag continued to perfect her witchcraft. Having reached her full maturity, her power grew exponentially. Every curse, every charm she cast was now more potent and effective. She had become the queen of the forest, respected and feared by all. Meanwhile, the young boy carried on with his life, though his heart was troubled by unease. One night, the boy had a chilling dream. He saw his homeland under attack from all sides, Turks, Hungarians, Russians, all conspiring to destroy the peace of Transylvania. People fled in desperation, and the lands were scorched by fire. He saw himself in the midst of the battle, but felt powerless to face such a colossal threat. The dream was so vivid that he woke up crying, a deep fear gripping his soul. Confused and distressed, the boy didn't know what to do. That night, the stars seemed dimmer and the forest darker than ever. The ugly hag, attuned to every vibration of the earth around her, sensed that something monumental was about to unfold. She was determined to help the boy, but in her own way, without him knowing. The hidden ally. The ugly hag knew the boy needed her help. Though she was often seen as a symbol of evil, the truth was more complex. She wasn't truly wicked, as others believed, but rather vengeful toward men who betrayed their wives and had the audacity to be jealous and toxic. For the ugly hag, the pain of these men was a small measure of justice for the suffering their wives endured. In her way, she believed in balance and fairness, even if her methods were unconventional. The stories about her always contained a grain of truth. Those who had encountered her and survived described her as a woman who combined mysterious beauty with an eerie appearance. Yet very few truly knew her, as the ugly hag was a master of concealment. She knew how to blend into the shadows of the forest, change her form, or merge with nature itself. Anyone who sought her out without her permission vanished without a trace. As the days passed, a new threat loomed over Transylvania. A foreign army, larger and better equipped than any before, approached the country's borders. The Turks had allied with other enemies, seeking to conquer this proud and rich land. The handsome boy's village was in danger, and he knew he couldn't face this overwhelming force alone. From the edge of the forest, the ugly hag watched the future with her wise and prophetic eyes. She knew the boy was special, and that within his heart lay dormant powers he had yet to discover. She understood that this was the moment their fates would intertwine, because only together could they save Transylvania. time was running out, and the shadows of war stretched across the peaceful lands, the ugly hag made an important decision. She would emerge from hiding and help the handsome boy. Not for glory or reward, but because she too felt this was a pivotal moment in history. For the first time, the ugly hag stepped out of the forest shadow and into the light, ready to confront destiny. The journey to the heart of truth, the handsome boy, burdened by worry, wrestled with how to save his country from the foreign invaders threatening to destroy the peace and beauty of Transylvania. Every day, he asked himself the same question: how can I, one man, stop this disaster? One evening, exhausted by his thoughts, he fell into a deep sleep. In his dream, a strange light enveloped him, and a mysterious voice told him that the answer lay in the heart of the darkest forest. When you reach it, the voice said, you will find the truth and the solution. The next morning, the boy awoke determined. He prepared his horse, and with a courageous heart, set off in the direction his eyes led him. Days turned into nights, and the journey seemed endless. He traveled through deserted villages, rocky hills, and sunlit meadows, but there was no sign of the dark forest from his dream. After a long period of wandering, the boy arrived at an unexpected land. Before him stretched a magical landscape, with multicolored flowers dancing in the breeze, and fields so beautiful they seemed unreal. Birds sang harmoniously, and the air carried a freshness that seemed to heal any wound of the soul. But the boy knew this place wasn't what it seemed. An illusion, he thought to himself. The truth lies beyond what the eye can see. Suddenly, a powerful dizziness overtook him. He fell from his horse and lost consciousness. When he awoke, the magical landscape had vanished, replaced by a dark and silent forest, just like the one in his dream. Tall, ancient trees formed a dense canopy that barely allowed a sliver of light to penetrate. The atmosphere was cold and oppressive, but the boy felt he was on the right path. From the shadows, the ugly hag watched him closely. She knew that the moment chosen by destiny was drawing near. Still, she didn't reveal herself. She watched from a distance, letting him follow his instincts. The hag waited for the right time to intervene, the moment when the boy would be ready to accept the truth hidden in the heart of that mysterious forest. The test of the handsome boy. Riding his trusted horse, the handsome boy moved slowly, guided only by his instincts and the deep call of his heart. Hours passed, and the landscape of the dark forest grew increasingly eerie. The trees pressed closer together, and the sounds of nature seemed to fade into an oppressive silence. After a long journey, he arrived at a small, old, and shabby cottage that appeared untouched by time. At first glance, the cottage seemed ordinary. The walls were cracked, the windows dirty, and the roof almost caving in. Yet the boy felt that this place held more than met the eye. From the doorway, a small, hunched old woman appeared, her white hair framing piercing blue eyes. She had been alone for many years, and her gentle demeanor seemed to inspire trust. Little did the boy know that this old woman was, in fact, the ugly hag, who had transformed her appearance to test him. Although the ugly hag was known for punishing the wicked, deep in her heart, she carried a trace of compassion. She knew the handsome boy was unique and had come there with a purpose greater than himself. All she needed to do was test him to understand his true nature. "Come in, my dear," the old woman said warmly. "You look tired and hungry. Come, rest and have something to eat." The boy entered cautiously, taking in the modest interior of the house. It was simple and humble, yet somehow inviting. The hag placed a plate of warm food and a cup of tea on the table for him. As he ate, the boy shared his story about the strange dream and the struggles the world was facing. "I dreamed that the answer to our country's problems lies here in the heart of the forest. But I don't know what I must do," the boy confessed sincerely, looking into his host's eyes. The hag listened intently, each word of the boy sinking deep into her soul. Deep down, the ugly hag knew that this young man was different. He wasn't just a hero with a pure heart. He was the key to a better future. All that remained was to see if the boy could pass the final test she had prepared for him: the ugly hag's transformation. After a long and tiring day, the handsome boy prepared to spend the night in the old woman's humble cottage. Though modest, the place felt warm, and the boy experienced an inexplicable sense of peace. He laid his head on the simple pillow and soon drifted into a deep sleep. The dream that embraced him was clearer than ever. The old woman's cottage was no ordinary place, but the key to the answers he sought. In his dream, everything was bathed in a radiant aura, and the boy could see the hidden truths of the world. Suddenly, he woke up. His breathing was quick, and his mind was filled with questions. What happened? What does this dream mean? He wondered. He turned to the old woman, who watched him calmly from a corner of the room. Without hesitation, the boy began to ask a flurry of questions. Why was he there? What did his dreams mean? And most importantly, who was she really? The old woman raised her ancient staff and began chanting magical words. In an instant, her kind figure disappeared, transforming into a much older, uglier, and more imposing version of herself. She was the true, ugly hag. Her face, etched with deep wrinkles, her eyes glowing with supernatural light, and her overwhelming presence would have terrified anyone. But the boy was not an ordinary man. He didn't flinch, didn't run, and wasn't afraid, as most people would have been. Instead, he looked into the hag's eyes with calm curiosity. Deep down, he felt that the ugly hag was not a danger, but a force that had protected him from the world's evils from the very beginning. "I have been waiting for you, boy," the ugly hag said in a grave voice. "For a long time, I knew you would come here, and everything I've done, I did to protect you. Now it is time for you to learn the truth." With her magical staff, the ugly hag drew a vivid picture of the future in the air. The boy saw the danger threatening Transylvania, wars, betrayals, and destruction. But in the midst of these dark visions, he also saw hope. He saw what he could do to save the pure heart of the land, protect its people, and bring peace. With tears in his eyes, the boy approached the ugly hag and embraced her. "Please, come with me," he said. "I need you. Together, we can save Transylvania." For the first time in many years, the ugly hag felt a warmth she hadn't known before. Seeing the sincerity in the boy's eyes, she agreed. "Very well," she said. "We will go together. But remember, salvation does not come without sacrifices. Be ready for anything." And so, the boy and the ugly hag joined forces, determined to protect the heart of Transylvania and face all the challenges that lay ahead, preparing for the long journey. The handsome boy and the ugly hag, now allies, were preparing for a difficult journey ahead. Each step forward was laden with uncertainty and unknown dangers. The ugly hag, despite her powerful magic, knew this was not the time to waste her spells. She chose to save them for critical moments, fully aware that their path would be riddled with unexpected challenges. They set off with determination, accompanied by the boy's loyal horse, which seemed to sense the gravity of their mission. After several hours of travel, the sky was suddenly filled with a large flock of birds, their sharp cries piercing the air. They flew in circles, appearing distressed. The ugly hag raised her staff to interpret the signs of nature. "The west," she said. "From the west comes danger." Not just a few men, but an entire army eager to conquer Transylvania. Their eyes met for a moment. The boy felt a burning desire to protect his homeland at any cost, while the ugly hag saw in his gaze the courage and purity that made him exceptional. The journey continued, with the dark landscapes of Transylvania's forest growing more mysterious with each step. After a few more hours, they arrived at an imposing structure, Dracula's home, hidden among the dense trees. The castle, with its dark towers and massive stone walls, seemed to whisper ancient tales of battles and alliances. Dracula greeted them with a wide smile, immediately recognizing the ugly hag. "My friend from youth," he said in a deep, warm voice. "What brings you here after so many years?" The ugly hag explained the situation, recounting the danger threatening Transylvania and the boy's pivotal role in this struggle. Dracula listened intently, occasionally glancing at the boy, assessing his bravery and resolve. "We must devise a plan," Dracula said. "These invaders will not stop unless we meet them with a force equal to their own. Hag, boy, let us discuss our strategy." Thus, the three formed a powerful alliance, preparing to defend the heart of Transylvania. Dracula, with his resources and extensive knowledge of the region, the ugly hag, with her magic, and the handsome boy, with his brave heart, were determined to do whatever it took to defeat the forces threatening the peace of their land. The alliance and the illusory trap Dracula, the ugly hag, and the handsome boy had forged a flawless alliance, each bringing their unique strengths to the mission. The invaders, Turks, Russians, and Hungarians, were already on their way, but not yet close enough to pose an immediate threat. The ugly hag, with her immense magical powers, cast a spell to slow their advance, creating natural obstacles and unfavorable weather conditions that hindered their progress. In the heart of Transylvania, the mountains were rich with gold and priceless resources, treasures that other kingdoms lacked but coveted deeply. This made the land a constant target of greed and invasion. Yet the ugly hag knew that despite her great power, she was not the one who would save Transylvania. That responsibility belonged to the handsome boy, with his pure heart and rare kindness. Dracula, with his experience as a leader, gathered all the villagers from his land, arming and organizing them strategically around the castle. They were ready to defend it at all costs. As the minutes passed, the invaders drew closer, the sounds of drums and heavy footsteps echoing in the distance. Using his brilliant mind, Dracula, with the help of the ugly hag, devised a cunning trap. The invaders were lured toward a magical fortress that appeared to be filled with beautiful maidens, sweet songs, and lavish feasts. This was an illusion crafted by the ugly hag, designed to enchant and render them vulnerable. The invaders, blinded by their desires and confident in their numerical superiority, marched toward the fortress without hesitation. None suspected that it was merely a deception, an invisible web that would ensnare them and expose their weaknesses. From a distance, Dracula and the ugly hag watched, while the handsome boy prepared for his pivotal role. "Now is the time to show who you truly are," the ugly hag told the boy. "It's not just your sword, but your heart that will save this place. You were chosen to protect Transylvania, the Savior's transformation." The handsome boy, unbeknownst to himself, was the true savior of Transylvania. Amid the chaos and preparations for battle, he discovered an inner power and magic that even the ugly hag was unaware of. Though she wasn't jealous, she was deeply astonished by his transformation. In an instant, the handsome boy transformed into a prince, clad in a gleaming golden and silver armor, radiating an aura of miraculous light that commanded respect and inspired courage. His transformation was more than physical. It was a symbol of his pure heart and grand destiny. With his new appearance, the handsome boy joined Dracula and the ugly hag, ready to fight side by side to defend Transylvania. Together, they formed an unbeatable team. Dracula, with his strategic mind and sharp sword, the ugly hag with her formidable spells, and the handsome boy with his divine aura and magical sword capable of defeating any foe. Dracula's plan worked flawlessly. The invaders, lured by the illusion of beautiful maidens and treasures within the fortress, fell into the trap set by the ugly hag. While the invaders were confused and vulnerable, Dracula and the handsome boy struck, taking them down one by one with swift and precise moves. Despite their victory, the battle was not yet over. Deep within the heart of Transylvania, darkness continued to lurk, and evil was not completely vanquished. The ugly hag knew this and told the boy, "Only you can bring true peace to this land. Your destiny is to illuminate the darkest places." The story continues in the next episode, where we'll uncover if the handsome boy, Dracula, and the ugly witch can finally defeat the evil lurking in the heart of Transylvania. Stay tuned to find out what happens next. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Silent Scars, to support these captivating stories. I love you all and deeply appreciate your support for my work. Love.